that one right there, that authorship is ranking highest for your authority, the post that I posted, and that's from August of 2013. So what between now and then changed that authority ranking to where your new stuff isn't coming through? Does that make sense?
My new stuff isn't coming through?
Well, why is that a 2013 post, if everything authorship related is correctly tagged all the way to current, right? If we think that that's okay, hypothesis. Let's assume that authorship is correct on everything, okay? Then basically at this point we have 2013, and that's the post that's ranking, but it should be a newer post. It should be a newer post with a newer date if authorship is what it's supposed to be. So somehow the authorship isn't connecting with the date. It used to, but now it's not. Make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. That could be why there's been a change. Because they were ranking in the top 10, but I wasn't #1 for meta tags. I was like in the top 3. I wasn't beating everybody but Moz for, I forget what the other one is. Like I checked 10 terms related to my articles, and they all were in the top 10, most in the top 3.
Right on.
So. All right, well, we're live, so thank you. You guys just filled the first 5 minutes. Good work. Thank you very much. 55 to go.
Thing on? Oh, I guess.
Well, yeah, man, you know, we started 1, so I gave it a couple minutes, but what the hell. So anyways, all right, folks, let's get rolling. Everyone watching, listening, wherever you are, welcome to Friday. It's SEO time again. This week, we're going to have some fun. Well, I already did, I guess, on Facebook, but now I'm having fun here. Eric Enge had a hangout this week with AJ Cohn, and it was along the lines of what is and isn't SEO, and so I decided to this is actually an old conversation, I think. It's kind of, you know, it's like certification and standards. Every couple of years or every 18 months, you know, it pops up and we go through this again. And so I'll get my contention out there so Christine can yell at me. And so I guess the way I tend to frame this is that a lot of times, you know, there's two things. There's this whole, you know, whatever is the new SEO crap that goes around, from content marketing to inbound marketing to fucking social is the new, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And the other part of it is that a lot of SEOs, I think, at times think they can wear every bloody hat in the marketing department, you know, from the PR guys to the social guys and everything else down in between. You know, is that SEO, you know, again, everything affects search, from customer service to site architecture to, you know, obviously social and everything in between. But is that the SEO's job, or is our job to advise to these people? And then that's our job, is to be an advisory capacity with the PR people, with the social people, and everyone in between, the web developers, the dev team, and obviously when we're doing our own on-site stuff, you know, then that's kind of SEO. But it gets kind of hazy, and people tend to wear too many hats at times, and I think it might, you know, I think that, like Terry or somebody said, it's like, you know, going to your development team and telling them that, you know, I've got this, you know, it's not your job anymore, you know, you all listen to me. So, all right, Christine, so you go right ahead and throw your 2 cents in there, and then we'll sort of all get going.
Well, I mean, you know, on this topic, I think, what was it, Doc said maybe we agree, but we disagree at the same time.
Yeah.
So that for me, I think it's a lot more involved of a process than it is than it's not. So we advise on design and layout and code and technical and writing and content and all these things, but we advise that from first to last. So we start with them if we can to make sure everything's done right, and then if it comes down to is this an issue with Google, could cause a penalty or cause a serious ranking issue, positioning issue, then, you know, we're pretty firm about it. Of course, it's always the client's decision, but we want to make sure that all those things are covered because they're all part of the algorithm. So I think they're all part of SEO.
So I was just getting some social things out. Terry, though, you know, I guess you and I talked afterwards too, and I think a lot of the difference starts to come into what level of SEO I guess you're doing, Terry. If it's corporate, if it's SMB, is it a small business?
Yeah.
You know, sure, you know, a small business, they're not going to have the finances to hire, you know, PR people and all these things in between. So sure, I think at times when those situations, you know, I think we've all worn the social media hat and the PR hat and everything in between. But corporate SEO, you know, like Terry was saying earlier, you're lucky if anyone will even listen to you half the time. You know, you better have, you know, the marketing director better be a buddy of yours, or, you know.
No, you have POVs. You write POVs all the time. You write a document that's a living document, but it's a document that goes to the CMO, the CEO. We all want to know what's happening. Well, here's your document that explains now how you're going to monitor the reviews and all the comments on Google Plus, because Google Plus changed to where they're now integrated with Google Places for Business finally on those retailers with more than 50 locations. And you have to write that for 10 clients.
Yeah, agreed. And we, when it comes to advising on these things, we work with large corporate clients as well as small businesses. And corporate clients, actually, a lot of times it's even more important because their teams don't talk to each other, and so they really don't understand that, hey, if I make this change in design, I may be making a big change in the technical area for the developers, or in marketing I may want to do this, but that actually could hurt the site. So there are things that we actually act as a communicator. We call it concierge SEO. Do a lot of hand-holding. And we try to be a partner with them, never the one that talks down to them or the authority to them, but we do have to try to make sure that everybody is on the same ship, on the same page.
Yeah, all right, and I'm coming your way next. And how do you define the whole, you know, what is it that we do, what is it we don't do, how do we work together, or, again, you know, I just think it's a disservice to various departments if we start saying that, you know, they're supposed to be listening to us. I always think we're advising, but
we can't guarantee results if they're not listening to us. We don't guarantee them.
What SEO should be guaranteeing results?
When I said guarantee, I don't mean like we guarantee in contract. I just mean we can't create the result.
Sure about that, because that's a
I said
the point that you're going to get a lot of pushback.
I retracted as soon as I said it, Terry. You just didn't hear me because you were talking.
That happens a lot.
That's some good backpedaling there, honey. Whoa.
What I sometimes will tell them, I can't guarantee the results if you do everything I tell you, but I can guarantee you won't get them if you refuse to.
Exactly.
Yeah. I tell them, if you don't take my advice, you can't expect me to be responsible for your rankings.
Right.
If you're not going to listen to my advice, then I'm not responsible for how you rank. I'm only responsible if you actually listen to me and implement it.
Exactly.
The trouble with both of those things, if you say, I can guarantee you won't if you don't follow my advice, and they don't, and they get lucky, that's your credibility blown forever. Sorry, Doc, but you know that's going to happen. You've now just lent weight to that webmaster who said, oh no, I can do this, and bang, he's just done it, and you've said. So never go out on a limb like that. And for the rest of it, it's kind of like the guy who has had one successful business and taught himself an awful lot of stuff, coming in and overruling the CEO who's got qualifications coming out of his ears, has studied business and marketing. You know, most of us in SEO didn't do a degree in marketing. Many of us didn't know what marketing was before they started in SEO. And let's face it, 90% of people in the sphere of SEO still don't actually know what marketing is. They just know what SEO is. So Dave's favourite saying really comes into the case here. You know, when all you've got is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. When the only bit of marketing that you know is SEO, and it shares all this stuff with other forms of marketing, guess what? Because it's marketing, yeah, it's all going to look like SEO because we're talking marketing. But you've got to understand SEO is one facet of a very rich, broad field.
Well, right, yeah. I remember like when the whole couple of years ago, the whole outreach craze started. One of the things I started doing was not reading SEO posts, but going to the PR blogs and people like that and how they do outreach. So yeah, you look at the PR guys, they do outreach like an SEO might, but totally different for totally different reasons and a totally different approach. You know what I mean? Because like you're saying, yeah, to them, the SEO thinks of outreach this way, whereas the PR guy, he's totally looking in a different direction.
The PR guy's looking at ORM.
They're also looking at messages, because that's what agencies are about, the message.
But the thing is, when we work with someone, we don't tell the PR person not to do their job, but we tell them how to do it within the constraints also of SEO. So
sometimes that can interfere with KPIs that they have, though. You gotta understand what they're doing it for. And
We do.
they're not always doing it for us. We have so many dependencies with other things that I'm sorry, you just can't call it SEO. You can't call PR SEO. It helps or it hurts, but it's not something that is you know, if your job is SEO, then that's not something that's your job, but you need to be aware of it. And understanding why they're doing what they're doing can help you influence it a lot more than having a really good check.
Well, yeah, I agree, but you can't say it's not part SEO because there's penalties related now to how you do PR, right?
Yeah, so there's lots of dependencies out there, but that doesn't
SEOs and it didn't work, and they started spamming PR web with link building and screwed the whole system up. But as long as you're a traditional PR professional, then you really don't have the same problem, right, Christine?
Well, except that they don't know about those things, so they do it when they think they're doing.
I work with publicity people.
Let me finish my sentence.
Absolutely do know that.
They don't. Most PR people.
I have worked with real PR agents.
I have too, and most of them don't understand what the SEO issues are with the PR. They know the PR, so we advise them on what those SEO issues are, and then we let them do whatever they do in the constraints of that. And if it's not something that's a serious issue or could be a serious issue, we don't push it. But if it's something that could harm the site, then we make sure that they're aware of the level of issue.
You don't have to worry. Most of the PR sites are already no follow.
Just so I know, what are the PR issues with getting a mention in the New York Times?
You want me to handle this one? Okay. From someone who actually worked at a PR firm and did SEO for 8 years, prior to where I'm at now. What you basically had in a PR thing is you had one link in the bottom in the footer, and that went back to the web page of in the about section, and so you didn't really put links because it was more of, here's what our product is, here's who you need to contact, here's your memorable quote. If you want to take this stuff out of this and write your own news article and make a phone call to add in some little flavor, or use this as a basis to run to your producer to get a television crew to roll to do a news story on something like that. That's the purpose of public relations. The problem is people said, oh, this goes out on the news wire, so let's put a bunch of links in the body copy, and you would get a press release within the first paragraph of the body copy. It had 24 links. And then at some point it just became a ridiculous thing because you had news agencies that carried that stuff who paid for it, but then you had people putting links in it, so then that news feed wouldn't show up, so it just basically became a polluted system, and the purists still know how to use it, and you can still see a news release when you type in a stock quote in Google, and that's why, because it's a pure press release. It's done in the one format. There's only one link at the bottom. Anything else is going to be really highly spammy, right?
They're looking to send messages, right? That's their bottom line. They're sending a message. They want to get links because they mentioned someone, and that person is going to link to the story out of,
yeah, look, we got mentioned here.
Name and print.
Tim, what was the deal with Interflora?
Who? Which?
Tim was in the chat here talking about Interflora, I believe.
Yeah, no, Interflora got nailed because the PR company running up to Valentine's this year did the usual advertorials, which were normally A-OK, ran their advertorials with "Buy your red roses," anchor texted, all over the place, as they usually do year on year on year. But this year, Google slapped them. Took them down, even for their own search term, Interflora. Couldn't find them for, they were slapped down. I think they came back. It took about 20 days for them to get back in the search results, and that's even for searching. Yeah,
they were right on the centre of all the guest blogging controversy about paid posts.
Yeah, but that was advertorials from the PR company, who obviously never realized that this was becoming an issue in the search world as such. So that was naivety from a PR company not understanding search, or potentially Interflora's search company not actually communicating with the PR company and saying, guys, you're gonna look into, you're gonna have potential issues. Yeah.
The one thing I do It's easy for us, all search people, to point at that one PR agency and go, oh, they made a terrible mistake there. What I wonder is how many Indian SEO companies on the same day also got their clients banned by putting in crap guest posts. You know, it's not just an SEO versus PR issue. There's more to it than that, isn't there?
There's a lot of crap hat SEOs out there that do it.
Sure.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If I'm going to use the term SEO for a little bit broader in the sense of search optimization rather than specifically website optimization techniques, then I see because we do this for clients, commonly advise them on the search impact or implications of almost any of their activities, unless it's exclusively something print. Even then, I think I could probably make a case for why the language you use in the print piece you need to consider with regards to search, because search is the way the public interacts with the majority of the content in the world, right? I mean, and the content that's produced. That was a ridiculous statement. The content that's produced. So in that sense, SEO is a different kind of discipline than other marketing tactics. I don't think it needs to be seen as a marketing tactic at all. And almost everything a company does, whether it's social posting or something on their website or a press release, ideally, if they can afford it, they need to get an opinion of some kind of a search expert.
Search experts and social. How many really believe or don't understand that most of the social web is not even indexable? How many even understand that? Not a lot. Anyone who talks about shares and retweets is a total idiot.
Yeah, I just had a conversation with we like to work with marketing agencies to advise them about their clients. That's kind of a sweet spot. We like that. And I had a conversation with one yesterday and was talking about they do marketing and PR and the general kind of traditional agency stuff for clients. And we're talking about a client's got a new product or service coming out and they want to do a press release. And so it was an opportunity to say, hey, kind of like what Steve was talking about, if you're going to do this, go out of your way to make this look like just an old school previous SEO press release. Don't let anybody talk you into because they're like their rep at, I think it was PR Newswire, somebody they were working with was talking about putting links in the body, and you know those are the folks that are going to, innocently enough, get their client in trouble because they're behind in what's best practice.
Look at the contract. The guy also gets $300 more for the press release if they put the links in the body.
Yeah.
And if you do that for a big company and you screw them, they will sue you and you're out of business. So you have to do due diligence and can't do stupid stuff like that for clients anymore.
Yeah, that's when you start telling clients, AM, and I like what you put in the room there. When you start telling clients what they have to do, you stand a good chance of losing any influence you have on the people within that organization. They should start to shut you out because all you do is make more work for them.
Well, sometimes you have to make more work for them because what they're doing is either hurting the site or isn't helpful to the site.
Like even on the copywriting level, I was working with a fairly large UK company, and we were having sitting there having a board meeting or whatever kind of thing one day, a meeting of the marketing staff. One of the people that did their writing for them was a professional writer, used to work for the Guardian, blah blah blah. And this was, I guess, 2008. So I was in the meeting and I was like, well, we should pick a topic that's something about the banks, something about people losing homes, all the little hot button stuff at the time, right? And I said we should write something like that. That'll get us, a lot of traction or whatever. And she starts going off in this meeting about, well, I'm a writer. I don't do things like that. It's art. We let it flow and all that. And I wasn't talking about dropping links and all, keyword density. I was merely just talking about topics that I thought would be a little more viral, that would help us. And sure enough, here's the head of their writing team just telling me that, writers don't do that, So I was thinking, all right, whatever. There's resistance in all the departments, I find, in large corporate structures, at least.
You got to remember, too, that in any field, whether it be SEO or whatever, when a consultant is brought in, if there are multiple players that have to be affected by your advice, any time that a consultant is brought in-house, there is fear and resentment. So your approach, if you come in with a collaborative approach, you're going to be better received. If you come in as the guy that's going to tell you how to do your job right, you could expect to get mountains of resistance. And even a flunky in the IT department can make you fail.
Yep.
True.
And will.
you can come in and tell people, we're doing a lot of audit, like site rescue for penalty recovery and things like that. So there are things we do have to tell them to do, and they have to do differently. But it's how you approach it. We don't come in and say, do it our way or else. We approach it from a collaborative point of view, but they do have to do what we're telling them if they want the penalty removed.
Like what Christine is saying, we've got a few clients that the kind of relationship we have with them that typically involves how long we've been with them, we can get away with much more direct either outright condemnation of something they've done or whatever, because the relationship is absolutely solid, and they treat us as if we were their in-house people. And then I can say, you got to tell Bob over there to stop doing what he's doing on the XYZ. But that just comes down to basically wisdom of knowing who can I say that kind of thing to and who do I not say it to.
Exactly.
And what we do also is we find out what the common goal is, and then we instruct from that point of view. So it's not when you're telling them what they need to do, they're aligned with the goal because you're aligned with the same goal. So you're not coming in and saying you're doing it wrong. You're saying you probably didn't know these things, and let's help get you where you need to be.
Well, I've had a lot of success too, going to Bob on the private side and saying, "Hey, Bob, got an opportunity for you. You're probably not aware of this, but this could really make your efforts a lot more effective." And a lot of times you'll find yourself with a new ally.
Yeah.
It's just it's a case-by-case basis. You like Bill's saying, you got to be cognizant of who you're talking to, what you're saying, and what the consequences could be. What are you giggling about, Terry?
Message in the board there is pretty good.
Oh.
The biggest thing that I've been dealing with over the past couple of years, and it's something that the C-level executives keep on putting top of their list of problems, is integrating all the marketing. And this is because, there are a lot of different teams, a lot of different specialists these days, and trying to get them all to play nicely is hell. Do you remember that early SEO Chat with Vinny? And he's feeling, I am the copywriter, I am the god of copywriting. You can't tell me what to... Exactly. Now, strong characters like that are in a lot of organisations. The guy who's in PR may have the opinion that he's the best PR in the world. You can't tell him anything to do with PR. And this is where, my biggest piece of advice to anybody who's going to be dealing with lots of different departments is the first thing to do is to stop worrying about who gets the credit. Treat your customer as smart enough to know he hires you and his business goes up, he's not going to fire you. He doesn't care whether you can actually track the figures to what you've done. If you stop worrying about who gets the credit, you can work so much better with everyone. You can make them look good, and not only does that then get your job done and have you a case study you can be proud of, but all of those other departments love you.
Sure.
Yeah, if you're doing SEO at that level, probably only a third or a half of your job is actually with SEO. You better enjoy working through those systems, whether it's bureaucracy.
That's it. Half your job's just talking to everybody in the chain.
Yeah,
I've always believed with SEO, half the game is managing customer expectations and
all you folks that do enterprise level stuff, more power to you. Have a good time. I'll take the small business.
Actually, I find small business is more difficult.
I like small business better. I'd rather work with a dysfunctional family-owned business that's got 3 people in it. Yeah.
I don't know. I got one for you that came in last week, dude. I haven't closed it yet, but Here's one for you. There's a guy, and okay, there's a family, and dad dies, and they own this lighting store business. But the kids all kind of fought over the will and everything. So both of the brothers went out and started their own lighting stores. And so now the one wants to outrank his brother. That's the goal of his fucking program. I was like, what?
Copyright, so you can't really write anything to Google against either one and get them removed, right?
Oh my God, no, but yeah, I was just reminded when someone said family, but I don't know, Bill, it's 6 of one, half dozen the other, you know what I mean? Small clients aren't a big paycheck, so you need more of them, and you know what I mean, you're kind of pushed and pulled in different directions. The large corporate stuff can be good bucks, you know what I mean? We've had ones that are 10 grand a month and up, so, you know what I mean? And that solves a lot of sales and a lot of problems if you got a 6-month or a year contract with someone who's putting 10 grand a month in your lap, you know? Like, you know, like you're saying, yeah, the red tape and all the shit in between can be a problem, but, you know, grass is always greener, I guess. You know?
I do find the small clients much harder work. They argue more because, you know, with a small client, this is absolutely their baby. You are holding their baby. You are doing things that are determining the life of their baby. Whereas with a corporate, it's his job. Yeah, he worries about it, and maybe there's more money at stake. But at the end of the day, there's a little bit less personal investment in it. And so I've always found that the corporate clients are actually sometimes the easier to work with once you've got past the red tape of getting to work for them. Admittedly, you know, you're pitching 6 times as long for a corporate.
If you get small guys who get it, Ammon, it can be a gas working with them because you can see real improvement that you can say, I did that for the client. That's a really good feeling. I've never been as happy about what I'm doing with a client than I have with the smaller clients that I'm working with.
And yeah, Bill, I think what Terry's saying brings up something else too. Is when a lot of times when we're going in and doing consulting gigs, there's an in-house SEO team. So it's not like Terry and I are coming into the head of SEO and he's got 10 guys under him. It's not like we're going to this guy and explaining everything like you do with the small business people. Like, you know, you ever find yourself small business people, they're like a little kid going, why are we doing that? Why are we doing this? Why are we doing? And you're constantly reassuring and re-explaining. But when you do the corporate stuff, you come in as a consultant. You know what I mean? The guys there already at least know some SEO. You're not as explaining as much as you would in a normal situation. So.
Well, and also with small business, I find we work with them, but it's their money coming out of their bank account, and it's their check that they write. It's not like the corporate check, right? So they can be much more difficult to client. Not always, but they can be because it's their bank account and they're watching the money flow out of that account. So we find sometimes that they can be the trickiest to work with.
Yeah, I'd agree. There's far more hand-holding.
Yeah, I think it's clear if you're good at building systems that work well in the kind of corporate climate or culture, the things that people are usually looking for, the money is much easier there.
Well, sure.
Lot more of it too. I mean,
yeah, that's for sure.
The rate I charge these small businesses, it's a third of what I charge corporate. Because you know what? They got to pay me twice as much just to deal with all the bullshit of talking to walls, that kind of thing.
We're the dev teams. Dev teams always our favorite, Terry. Getting anything done by those guys, yeah, good luck.
I never have any trouble because I can kind of speak their speech.
I don't know dealer place that we did some work for the UK. Yeah, remember that?
There's the odd one, yeah. Just not listening.
Hey, Dave, here's another question for you. So is it search engine optimization, or are we really just talking about Google optimization?
I said this the other day, as far as I'm concerned, 90 or whatever, 80% of the SEOs out there should be called Google search optimizers because that's what they do. Me, I go fucking YouTube, I want to get some patents and figure out how that search engine's working. I go by fucking Twitter, I want to figure that search out. I go by Amazon, I want to figure that out. eBay, that out. You know what I mean? Wherever I see a little box that says search and go, I'm fucking interested in how it's working, especially if, you know, obviously if that's somewhere my client wants to be. But just as a geek, I'm interested in how they work. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think a lot of people think beyond Google these days. So
instead of SEO, we should call them GUIOs.
No. It's an information retrieval and query analyst.
Oh yeah.
All right.
I like that.
right?
I think I'll use it. Yeah, I like this. Pretty good. Well, we also related a story to the Dojo Chat the other day. Once upon a time, somebody on Syndicate, the Black Hat forum, I think it was 2006, somebody had posed the question, how do you define SEO? So at the time, it's still the one I use to this day, which is search engine opportunist.
Well, that works too. I do like the search experience optimization phrase though, because it does define much more what we do and what we cover.
I guess, it arose by any other name for me. I'm sick of all the renaming or the new SEO is this or that shit. Again, if you weren't thinking about UX and user experience and things of this nature along the way, then you probably weren't a very good SEO anyways. Just because we throw the word in there, it's going to change how people are doing this job. I doubt it.
Content marketers.
Well, the bottom line is that
that's a negative phrase, dude.
The scope of tasks that you need these days to help a business grow its presence and its sales has increased. Just like my analogy on G+ with the mechanic. What they used to have to do was basically throw some keywords in, get some content up, try to make a good content, make the site functional. And now there's so much more that's in the play. So do you take the scope of your job description and increase it? Do you change the name of it? Do you simply call in some pros in those aspects that you're not dynamite on,
What the fuck are you on about, Dan? Windbound marketing. Awesome.
Bound to win marketing.
I still remember Dan, I think last year at some point when the whole inbound was really getting out there. I think it was Dan that we were in one of these sessions, and Dan said, if it's inbound marketing, how come everyone's doing outreach?
Yeah, everybody I asked that at MozCon stopped talking to me, so I stopped saying that. I need people to buy me drinks.
I'd like to agree with what David said about, renaming SEO to have a nicer word in the middle. I mean, what does the experience mean? Everything is a web experience. It's all about presence and, what you do to, market your website, your business, your services, your corporation is relevant to the target, the group that you're trying to reach for sure. So, yeah, it's about experience, but so what? It's still, is Google actually Doc has said this, and I actually like this. Google is moving away from becoming a search engine and more to being an answer engine.
Well, that was Eric Schmidt that said that a long time ago, about 3 years ago.
I think you guys 2004 or 2000 is when they picked up the Orion algorithms.
Yeah, Doc was the first one I heard say that. So
the Orion algorithms were Ori Alon, and very interestingly enough, when he was in university, because the actual patents and stuff, when Google bought it, disappeared, because he was Australian, him right off, he just disappeared. Anyways, but he was studying a thing called no-click searching, and that was 04, 05. So you see that a lot now. Every time I search something in Google and I'm getting the answer without having to click through, I start thinking back to that whole, 04, 05 or Orion algorithm.
They had an I feel lucky button from day one. I mean, it's not like that hasn't been a goal from the start.
Yeah.
But
that's the future of search.
Or a meta for
searching or whatever he called it. Google doesn't want you to leave Google.
Well, they're becoming a website, basically, really. But like a website with information. But the thing is, the new algorithms are great for info nuggets. They're terrible for actually any sort of regular, not complex like words, but complexity of search where the things aren't easily put together. It just dumps you a kitchen sink after page 1, and sometimes even after the 4th result.
Wow.
Well, yeah, the thing is they've done all this stuff to try and stick stuff on the front end. on the search result page, but there's no depth to the knowledge graph or any of that shit.
Exactly.
It's just this very thin layer of scrape.
Well, that's why right on Wikipedia usually, no?
Well, the knowledge graph result itself is a result, the result that they choose to show you. Period.
If you mean the results in the top 10, whatever they are, or 6 or 7, whatever page it is, they're just not good, to be honest. They're very, for anything that's, even Wikipedia is better. I mean, the info nuggets are great. They can deliver that, but as I think Bill was just saying, or someone was just saying, there's no depth to the search. So when I search for things that I need to look up, I can't find them. I have to research and change my query and keep looking, and they take words out, and it's not semantic at all.
And the sad
what
thing,
kind of searches are you making, though?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't have that problem at all. In fact,
Me neither.
I have the
A lot of
problem
times
getting
technical.
too many good results from the same site.
No, yeah, that too, but I don't know. I get terrible results. I'm having to research and search all the time.
Where the current search does not work very good is on what I call compound queries, where you have transactional and informational. They used to be shared, and Universal did a really good job of those kind of queries. The current bullshit they're running doesn't even come close.
Right.
I think that's
It's
why.
info nuggets, weather, sports scores, things, city names, details about a person, but they're bad on things like real information and what you were just saying.
The programming searches, they're unreal.
I've seen the same thing as Christine. When I'm doing research on topical data, I want to learn about a particular topic. There's just no depth there. If I want to learn about mesothelioma, well, obviously I'm going to have 13 pages of crap to get through. But if I want to get in there and into some sort of interstellar propulsion techniques, good luck, because you're going to get about 3 results that might touch on it, and then 150 other results that are only tangentially related.
And I think
it was better 5 years ago. Their search results were better in that regard 5 years ago than they are today.
Because of links.
Huh?
Because of the influence of links on the results.
Oh,
no.
Links have been there all along.
Links to things change. It's using the data from the company they bought. I can't think of the name of it right now, but it's the strings.
MetaWeb.
Yeah, if they know like iced tea means iced tea, but if I try to put in something like, say, when the fiscal cliff was happening, and I was trying to research information about politics and government, it had no answers for me, or like Doc said, it'd have like 3, because it can't make that a thing. It only can relate on info nuggets. If it's a nugget that they can bring back.
Anyways,
but it's not semantic in any way.
Bill Slosky in the Q&A has I don't really think I think it's rhetorical, but he said, does anyone really care what Eric Schmidt says about search? When's the last time he wrote a ranking algorithm? we only care, Terry and I only care what Eric says about search because he's great fodder for the show.
All the time.
Yeah, he's good for the show, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's about all we ever liked Eric for. He says some really things.
Hey now, can I disagree with this?
No.
Okay.
Yes or no?
You disagree with whatever the hell you want, man.
All right, well, I mean, I'm just looking at it from a chairman perspective and knowing him. Of course, Christine's about to punch me after this when I'm going to say this, right?
I was going to say you're wrong, but...
But, I mean, he's still chairman of the board. He still does direction. So if there's a certain thing that he wants to fix, then basically what you're going to do is you're going to have a direction change in the algorithm to append for... Man, someone said this, and I looked at it. What is up with this crap, right? At some point, that's going to make somebody jump and fix that in Google, right or wrong.
I'm not seeing it being fixed. It's been since Hummingbird was released, so 3 months before Hummingbird was released.
You know how long it takes to do this stuff?
Yeah, but
right?
It's not being tweaked. Like normally they tweak. It's not being tweaked.
All right. Well
yeah,
back. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Alan. Thank you.
Hang on.
We're at a sort of transitional phase with Google, which is very interesting, but we're very, very early in the machine learning. One of the first things I noticed, I mean, we're all obviously on Google Plus to get in here. One of the first things I noticed when I ever came on Google Plus, somebody reminded me today, was I created a post and it automatically put a hashtag in for me. If you think about that and what it's doing, that's actually really clever. And it's only the first level of it. As it gets better, It's in real time determining what your topic is about based on all of the topics going around at the time. That's really smart stuff, and it's baby steps, but it's there. You think where that's going.
Eamon, our earlier correlation experiment we were talking about earlier, it's a separate database. So at this point, they can tweak it as much as they want because you're not going to see it.
All right, we got another question from the viewership here. For those of you not knowing where to find those here, you click on the Q&A on the left. Let's see, we've got Brian McFarland. Wow, this will be right up Terry's alley, I'm sure. When I review each of your titles, I do not see a consistent title. What is each of your T-shaped job titles? And so, of course, I had no idea what a T-shaped job title is, but of course, it's from the Moz. So there you go. There you go, folks. There you go.
Well, the ultimate T-shape
will never define me.
No,
T-shape job. Right? That's Webmeister T, isn't it?
I'm the Prime Minister of AgFi. We don't do transparency.
AgFi.
When I started out, the whole field was just called web promotion. You know, thanks to Jim making that the term of the day.
Right, click off.
But even then, it was subject to this thing that's been around a long time called marketing. So, you know, always I've worked within a specialist part of marketing, and over the years, I've broadened out. So I choose to specialise in internet. When I very first started, I just specialised in the web. I didn't touch email. So I was a web marketer. Today I do a little bit of email as well, and a few other things, a couple of other formats, other things that run on the internet outside of the HTTP protocol. So I'm an internet marketer. That's my job title.
That works.
Anybody else want to volunteer up their job titles?
Internet 1 or 2, Eamon.
There is Internet 2 now.
Internet 1, but to anyone who's still on about 2.0, there's 2.
Right on.
Internet does exist, so.
That has special significance.
Yeah.
You're good, Dave. Mine's Senior Search Scientist.
Very nice.
I have no title officially.
You're CEO.
Head chef and bottle washer, man.
I call myself SEO, but what we offer is certainly entails some things that don't fall in the traditional SEO realm. Okay.
Well, here's for you, Brian McFarland, buddy. Let's see, on my Facebook and my accounts and things, it says Super Ooper Duper Search Engine Algorithm Analyst and Web Presence Visibility Optimizer.
I don't.
I'm consultant.
Oh wow, that's just no fun. Wow.
Yeah, I call myself a consultant too. It's just easier.
Sounds like a drinking game.
Spin the bottle, you know. But I mean, we all wear multiple hats. I'm pretty sure. You know, I don't offer SEO as a service. I don't choose to take that risk, but I understand it and I coach people. You know, give them tips.
And I do. I'm sorry, Marge. I didn't interrupt you.
No, that's okay. I was just babbling.
I couldn't hear you. I'm sorry. No, and I do everything from SEO to oversee website implementation to accessibility and some usability. So, given my background, so I'm a little bit diverse.
Yeah.
One-man company. Mine's a head geek. What's in charge?
Well, I don't know if anybody read my tagline. It's I am, therefore I think. You know. I don't know. I'm a geek too. I admit to being a geek. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Now I have the pepper commercial in my head. Wouldn't you like to be a pepper too?
Wouldn't you like to be a pepper too?
I'm still waiting for somebody's job title to be Sheldon Cooper of Search.
Okay, lost me. I'm out. What the hell's a Sheldon Cooper?
Ah, dear. No Big Bang Theory fans.
Oh, sorry. See.
Oh, Sheldon Cooper. Sorry, I didn't hear it.
Dave does not watch regular TV, huh?
No, dude, literally, I watch documentaries, shit like that. I literally don't know any popular shows whatsoever.
I love Big Bang Theory. It's one of my favorites.
Never seen Game of Thrones, never seen the jail one, I've never seen any of them.
Your kids must stand out like a sore thumb.
My partner watches it, and she says that she only watches it to research me, to better understand me.
You know, I conscientiously objected to Breaking Bad, and then they ran some marathon, and I regretted not watching that show. It was good.
Oh, it was awesome.
I still haven't watched it. Don't say anything, please.
Yeah.
No? Oh, wow. I started watching from the very first.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, that was a good series. I missed something there. But who's got time to watch TV anyway?
Yeah,
the best thing that's been on telly is
sorry, go ahead.
Sherlock. I don't know if any of you have been catching Sherlock, the British TV one.
That's the one with the newer one, isn't it? Yeah, I've seen promos for it and stuff on Hulu. I haven't actually watched it.
Watch it. It's really good.
Well, I used to read all those books when I was a kid, so I might actually do that one. So.
I usually catch Craig Ferguson just before I go to sleep at night. That's the extent of my TV.
I love my blacklist.
Hey, Dave, so we don't have Bill handy, Slosky too handy, but why not change the E in SEO to entity?
Oh, God, don't.
No,
because we don't. Simply enough, I don't really want to give more ammunition to these idiots out there because they're just, again, as soon as, like, someone grabbed one of poor Bill's freaking posts and turned it into fucking, brand mentions are the new links and shit like that. It's like these people, man, you give them, again, a little knowledge is seemingly dangerous with these fucking people. I worry about giving them any kind of new, really, I'll just leave it the way it is.
Well, like you said a couple of years ago, man, any bullshit gets amplified now.
Yeah, 10 times.
Well,
yeah, well, this is it. Some of the
sensationalize. I think they grab something and run with it, and their link bait and all that crap still goes on. And
hey, well, I'll stand here right now and tell you that being that against all that shit can actually work. I had an email coming off the site the other day, and apparently I wrote a post recently about crap hats. Oh yeah, I think it was, I don't know where I wrote it, but anyways, it was about crap hats and fucking people losing jobs and my anger at this level of general knowledge and from our consumers as clients and from even people that perform the work apparently that don't seem to know better. But I actually got a job for that. The guy emailed me saying, we had to fire and lay off some people, so what you were saying really rang true and this and that. So you can get work just being passionate once in a while. Fuck it.
Well, passion can take you a long ways on getting a point across.
What was Bill saying here?
I don't know, but I interrupted Dan and I felt bad about it.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Dan.
Inbreed marketing.
Oh, Dan's one.
I'm sure nobody interrupted me.
Yeah, it doesn't happen too often. So.
No. Well, I jumped in, so.
Well, our friend also going back to when you guys were bitching about the results, and Bill was saying it's easy to blame Google for returning bad search results, but sometimes it's more really a matter of the web just sucking. There's a sparsity of information about topics we were searching for. Sometimes those 10,000 monkeys get tired.
Well, and you have to add in more. I agree with Christine. Sometimes you actually do have to add more qualifiers to get something more relevant to what you're actually looking for, like year or, I don't know. I mean,
from the very first days, right? Search engines have always depended on webmasters and SEOs to fix the results for them by making good content more visible.
Sure.
I think that's part of the problem right now is we haven't figured out how to optimize for Hummingbird. When we figure that out, the good stuff will be there, and you will see the results improve. When Google first came out, there was hardly any transactional results in there at all. It's mostly big authority sites, and then we figured out, hey, go get some links, or hey, add some more pages. We started figuring out how we could get those other sites into the results. I take part of the blame. That's just my 2 cents.
I think in a way I agree with something Doc was saying earlier. I am getting good results still from Google, but I also agree with him, because what I'm getting is I'm getting really good results on the first page and the second page, and then after that it's all crap. So if you want to go past the first 20, if you want more than one opinion on it, yeah, I will agree there. Google's tended to go downhill. It's got too much of the emphasis on diversity only at the front, and then it's a popularity contest. Does that sound about right?
What you've got there on those deeper pages is more crap that they threw out of the final bag. That's where it ends up getting left.
My problem with it is that they remove terms. So I have the same problem Doc does. It's not 2 pages. It's literally 3, 4, 5 results. It's rarely a full page of results. Often I'm looking for technical stuff, topical, government, politics. All those types of
3 results was a full page on Google these days.
What's that?
I thought 3 organic results was a full page on Google these days.
Mostly 10.
Pretty much.
But I don't find.
Usually you got to scroll down to see the second and third.
And
Yeah.
what else
I don't
is
find that those results are very very helpful. They're usually a kitchen sink, and they sometimes tell you they've taken the word out, which I find is really detrimental to search, because the word they've taken out is the qualifier word that made the difference in the search.
Dan, what are you saying? That there's a lot of ads at the top? Yeah, that's okay. Panda will fix that.
Never mind. Never noticed that, David.
You know, another thing that's irritated me too is when Matt said, you know, newer posts would get higher relevance. Everybody started pulling their dates off of their content. So when I'm looking for information, technically, it's just like, well, was this written in 2006 or 2013?
Because that's going to fucking help.
Well, there's a plugin you can go out there and buy now that like keeps all of your posts as if they were just posted.
Yeah. Did Viper chill right there?
Comes. Like, I'm sure that can't ever go bad.
You don't remember the JavaScript that used to generate the date the minute you viewed the page?
Yeah, awesome.
On your index page, like 1996 or 7, we got that banned, right? Remember that?
Yeah. I don't know, but I mean, you know, people just take everything too literally when Matt says something. You know, so that's just me grumbling. I'm being a grumpy.
Well, and it's also the people that are always trying to read things into everything. You know what I mean? It's that. You know, I remember when Matt put out that video about patents, you know, and one of the patents, he said, you know, his basic premise was the same as the guys like Bill have been saying for years, that just because they patent something doesn't mean they're using it, or if they did use it, or what it's evolved to, et cetera,
or ever will.
But when Matt did the post about, you know, saying we don't use them all, and one of the examples he gave was transition rank stuff, right? And I was sitting in our chat room going, you know, 3, 2, 1. He said transition rank, so they must be using it because he said they're not using it, so they're definitely using it. And I was like, oh my God.
Well, that's how it goes, man. He puts out a crumb, and everybody wants to make it into a cookie so they can show all their you know, circle jerk friends what a beautiful cookie they made.
Yeah.
I sometimes wonder if he isn't, you know, amused by the reactions to things he says.
It's not a circle jerk. It's not a circle jerk. It's outreach.
I thought that was reach around. I thought that was outreach around.
By any other name.
Propaganda, disinformation.
Yeah. So.
I have yet to find Matt saying anything that was really inaccurate.
Right.
Things have changed. And 99 times out of 100 is people reading shit that he didn't say and failing to recognize what he didn't say.
I agree with Doc, because he's usually very specific.
He is phenomenally accurate in his statements.
Yeah.
It's pretty easy when you cover both ends by saying, well, this could or could not. I mean, fuck, he starts every one of his videos.
As would you or I, Terry, as would you or I.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever gotten training on how to interact with the press, they tell you to be, you know, clear but, you know, not specific on some things. You're
concise but vague.
Yeah, exactly.
Matt's from the NSA originally, so he was probably got good training on that.
Well, yeah, if what you're saying isn't specifically provably false, then it's true, right?
There you go.
Another thing in regards to the Christine, the number of pages that you see from the same place, that's partially on technical stuff, because I'll hit, say, Stack Overflow and hit 3 or 4 of their articles. Somewhere else, it's crap, so I'll only stay there a minute and won't go any deeper in the site. Whereas Stack Overflow, I'll hit links inside of there. In other words, they're seeing what you do on a page and think Stack Overflow is the place that's giving you the best answers. So personalized search is giving you a lot of the same stuff all the time.
I have no personalized search except for the one that I force on you. Mine's turned off.
Well, I think if there's no way to get around not being...
No, they force some on you, but I'm saying I don't have the personalized turned on.
Yeah.
So.
I don't care if it's turned on or off.
There is no turned off anymore.
No,
I
said that.
Know everything.
I said there was no non-personalized search. I said I don't have personalized search turned on. They do force some personalized search on you, but I don't have personalized.
Yeah, now the traditional personalized that Christy's talking about is actually your search history and stuff.
Yeah.
And that's what that is. I think where Terry's going is, you know, you've got geographic personalization, you've got all kinds of different things they're doing outside of your search history. Yeah. And traditionally, the personalization was just your search history, but obviously these days personalization is a lot deeper.
That's why also you don't get 2 sides to a story anymore either. You see the site that you're most interested in. Very seldom does Google give you that second side of the story. You get one side and that's it. The side that they think you're interested in seeing.
Or should be interested in, more like it.
Yeah. Well, and that's irksome too. I mean, for them to assume what I want to do. That's just me bitching and moaning.
That assumes that you're a closed-minded person who only wants to see one slant on news or anything else.
Well, that's based on your behavior, because if you don't allow your track to be done, how can they personalize search? So therefore you have gaps in where your user history is. So therefore what you're getting are inaccurate search results based on your lack of compliance with their privacy statement and allowing you to keep all your data.
Compliance makes it sound like a bloody law. I don't log into Google when I'm searching. I do keep my browser search history, and I'm sure I'm cookied at sites, but and I also am sure that Google is still tracking what I'm doing and what I'm searching for online, with or without me having specifically, logged in and enabling something.
I count on it. I
would not be surprised if they know the MAC address on my router. I would not.
They do. That's how they have a call home feature. That's how sometimes hackers get busted, is that they think they're private or they're on a torrent or whatever, and then they come back out and the Google call home feature says, oh, you were this IP and this address, and you were this IP and this address again. There's a gap. That gap will fill in with the fact that that's you.
Yep.
So, Christine, is there another search engine that you use when you're trying to get stuff done?
I'll check out Bing and DuckDuckGo when I get frustrated. I can't get a couple results. Bing, unfortunately, has gotten a lot better, but it's still deficient, and so is DuckDuckGo. But at least they give me alternatives. So, because I do get frustrated with the fact that a lot of the stuff I search for does not easily translate to a thing or to a nugget, and so I become frustrated when they keep taking out the qualifier on my search. And they'll list it a lot of the times, say missing, or it's in fine gray print underneath. Now it's very tiny. But what's the point of me searching for it if they're just going to take out the words that matter?
Is there anybody that does any sort of optimization on a kind of optimization work for a niche search engine? And I don't mean like Bing, but just for can you optimize? I don't know, for Wolfram Alpha.
Why would you want to?
Wolfram
I'm just as an example. Is there something?
I always think of, is it worth my client's time or money for me to spend my time optimizing for a search engine that nobody uses?
Right. So
lots of people use it, but goddamn, you people already broke Google. Why are you trying to break Wolfram Alpha? That's like the only useful search engine ever.
It depends how you define niche, doesn't it? Because
our work here is done. Let's go break that one now, huh?
I've got one client that still has to worry about Yandex, and I've got 2 clients that have to worry about Baidu. So
yeah.
Yeah,
in the West, we class those as niche.
Yeah,
and Baidu is challenging.
My question assumes you have kind of a client-based reason for focusing on another search engine. I agree with you, Terry. For all practical purposes, almost no one needs to worry about anything but Google. But I was curious if someone has a client, and Ammon, I wouldn't include Yandex or Baidu in this kind of niche thing, but more of like Amazon's not a good example, but if you could, I guess it's like optimizing for the for what iTunes or the iStore or Amazon.
We do that. We optimize for YouTube.
YouTube. I've been spending shitloads of time figuring their search out.
Yeah. Also, I optimize my feed for commerce engines and recommendation shopping engines. All those I optimize the feed for those, knowing that if you include certain information, you'll get you'll get more visibility.
We got a question again from Mr. Bill Slosky here, since we can't get him in. We'll get you in shortly. As soon as someone has to check out Bill, we'll grab you. But he's got a good one, actually. The right to be forgotten stuff. Is everyone familiar with that the last week or so? So Bill is asking, the right to be forgotten, freedom of speech. Is this an SEO issue, A, and B, should the U.S. follow the EU's policy on the removal of search
It's
results?
not a policy, man. It's a court ruling that's going to have to get sorted out because it's impossible to implement.
Right, yeah.
They can implement it in that one case for that one guy, but the general case can't exist.
Yeah, hang on. I think everyone's sort of misread this, especially with, not looking into it in the sense this only applies to the EU Data Protection Act. Now, the Data Protection Act has very, very strict criteria. It's to do with personal information in the sense of health records, bank account details, national insurance numbers, passport numbers, criminal convictions, which, and in this guy's case, financial details, as in a bankruptcy. Now, the problem came in is these become public, and after sort of 5 years, you are then allowed to, financially trade again, have a bank account again. Obviously, the initial, when you apply for bankruptcy, what happens is it's in the public domain because obviously you can't have credit check, etc., etc. But then what the cock-up was obviously Google indexed a public court document which was then taken down after the X amount of period, where Google never followed suit. Now it's going to be so these are very, very niche, particular pieces of information, personal information, that Data Protection Act should not be in the public domain. I don't foresee health records, passport numbers, things like that ever getting out there, but if they did, Google would never take them down straight away. But what happened, this was a court document which gets expunged after 5 years, and because courts don't understand, or public things don't understand, oh shit, I need to use a no index on this, and then remove it after 5 years, and then Google in this place. And builds his archive. So they need to figure out what the crack is. But this is very niche. It's not like someone, run naked when they 20 years old, running naked down the street, having some photos, someone posting something about, oh, he likes to eat jellyfish on a Friday night, or whatever, because that would be dealt with by libel laws, and slander, etc. This is Data Protection Act, and it's very unique. It's not going to be a massive issue. It's only a few set of circumstances. For example, this bankruptcy gets published, obviously live, in the public domain for the X amount of time that the penalty applies. I looked the other FCA, which is our financial controlling in the UK. The FCA the other day published that these guys, as company directors, have been banned from being a company director for the next 10 years. They're not allowed to trade. The point is, in 10 years' time, that then gets squashed. Checking out their site, the FCA, they haven't indexed it. So Google's going to index that, but in 10 years' time, that record will still be out there when, in theory, this should be quashed under Data Protection Act.
Yeah.
So,
but Tim, the court records are in the public domain, and they remain in the public domain. You can always look up bankruptcy hearings from 20, 30 years ago. That is the whole point of public record. So, are we saying that now all governments have to do it? If so, great. I want the tax office to have my right to forget included, so that any tax, once it's a month old, they can't hit me for it.
Well, you know,
it's not going to happen. It's not going to stand.
Yeah, but
I do wonder if somebody actually paid for that ruling, because it just strikes me. I know I need a tin hat,
listen.
We're having a big vote on Europe, and suddenly we get this ridiculous law that makes us want to step out of it.
If you follow the whole thing, right? This was almost 10 years ago. Okay, 5 years after his record got expunged, right? He then obviously kept on seeing it in the search in Google Index, and kept like, well, I'm not bankrupt anymore because those records are the time data's gone out. And he asked Google, can you remove that out the index? And Google removes hundreds of thousands a year out of the index. Obviously, he spoke to someone on a bad day who hadn't been laid the night before, who basically said, no, we're Google America, and you can piss right off.
They should.
Took him another 2 years.
In the States, we're not liable to fucking laws in the UK. I laugh at that shit all the time. That's bullshit.
But this is the point. Hang on a second. 2 years goes by. He goes through the whole court system because, it could have just been removed. Goes through the whole court system. When Google turns up there, they go, no, we're Google America. This is Google Spain index. So the judge turned around and said, listen, you trade here as Google Spain, you make frickin' money here on AdWords, therefore, you've got to abide by the Data Protection Act.
Question, did the actual government agency have to remove the documents?
Yeah, they were removed 8 years ago.
Aren't they still? I thought you said they were still in the records.
Yeah. See, it's going to be like a weird mishmash. It's obviously you can go into a court and find it, but what it is, if you think about how traditionally
you can't find it online, but you can go right to a courthouse and find it in a private database.
Yeah. So what you've had is you've had a traditional sense where it's become like skewed online. So for example, if I declare myself bankrupt, there's obviously a court hearing and I'm declared bankrupt. Now, of course, because things are online now, the court, in the old days, you would have something published in the newspaper that says so-and-so's been declared bankrupt and he can't trade, or have bank accounts for the next 5 years. Now, because that then is now in an online, obviously that's how it got indexed. But when they pull it down offline after that time period, it's still in the courthouse, so you could still go and search for it, but it's not online on their side. And that's where the disconnect comes in.
So if they 410 that document, it's gone out of the Google index. So I would put more onus on the government or the agency that looks after that data to properly dispose of it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. There's going to need a lot of education. Like I said, I looked at the FCA site yesterday when this all was going off. And even the FCA, as making a cock-up because they've just said, oh, 2 guys can't trade as financial directors for the next 10 years. Now, that will come down in 10 years' time, but because obviously that's there, that's going to be indexed. So the situation, I mean, there's a disconnect, and they're going to have to figure out how to do it. But I need to stress, this is not about someone picking his nose, running around naked, someone slandering someone, libel, because those all can be dealt with by libel laws. This is a very, very finite, fine set of data, which is under the Data Protection Act.
Well, and just to add, I was adding in the chat, Vegas has a similar law about public records, certain ones, that they're not allowed to be online. Now, mugshots, things like that, now they are, and people don't enforce it, but you could sue on it, and you could sue to get it removed.
Yeah, and I think it's fair and reasonable that somebody who's paid their debt, they've handled their issues, the statute of limitations has run out, they should be able to get that stuff offline. My problem with this is Google is supposedly a search engine. Now, if it's been removed from every place else, and the only reason it shows up in search is because they haven't taken it out of their index, that's fine. But if they're reporting a result in their SERP that is present online, that's not Google's fault, I don't think. I think we're chasing the wrong goddamn fox to protect the chickens. They should be going after the people that have it online, not against a search engine that's finding it.
Right. Yeah, totally. And there's going to need some education there. I mean, look, these like little local courts and things like that. You know, still in like the 60s, man, and you know they just chuck something online and they just have no understanding about it, you know. So there is going to really need to be some education there on how to go from, you know, traditional old world, how courts publish something and then it moved forward. So yeah, definitely there's going to need some education. It'll get there, but this wasn't. What you need to understand is the whole thing. This wasn't like a judge going after Google. This was a poor little guy turning up saying, listen, I've been trying for 3 years to ask them for this to be removed. These guys keep saying, well, no, we're Google America. You've got to come to America, file all your shit in America, and we'll consider it. And he's like, hey, fuck, you know, I'm just like a little farmer here, you know. So he had to go down this road. Obviously, in court, when Google turned up and said, no, we're not responsible because we're Google America, that's when the judge threw toys out the fucking window and said, hey, you know, you could have sorted this out years ago, and right, just gave him a slap, a wake-up slap.
Judge on that.
So it's not a government agency going after someone else, and do you know what I mean? I think if you follow the whole context of it, it was a pretty small little innocuous thing, which just because of the way it was handled. Yeah, and we were talking about this earlier. It's how you handle people. Well, Google went in there and said, fuck me, we're Google America, piss off.
Well, they didn't want to set a precedent, too.
So that's the thing. But on the other hand, if you say to Google America, right, you need to cough up some money, they don't say we Google America. They say we Google Bermuda. Yeah, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah, well, okay, fine. You want to be Google America? Get the fuck out of Spain. You know, you're banned in Spain. That's what it boils down to. They want to do business globally, then they're going to have to deal with the local laws. You know, I don't have a problem with the judge saying that, you know, you have to be subject to our findings.
Did I just kill the entire conversation?
Huh? Yeah, did I break up?
No, you're fine here, Doc.
Am I muted?
Good here. Just
we can hear you quite when we can hear Doc too. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Doc.
I think that the Spanish judge made sense. My problem is just like I said, Google should not be held responsible for what is on the internet. They're not the fucking internet. They're a search engine.
I think you'd have a hard time convincing a judge of that.
Well, I don't have to. I just have to convince me, you know? I think it's bullshit.
I think that's part of the problem, too. The judge didn't really understand how search engines work.
Exactly.
And that it was actually easier for the government agency to look after it on their end than, you know, if they know index that, all there would be is a title to a page, that's it.
Yeah, it's a dangerous, slippery slope, I'm afraid, going that direction.
All right, well, you go. That was a run.
But don't you think that article was sensationalized by everybody who covered it?
Oh, yeah.
Net neutrality and all this stuff about there being a second tier on the internet. Open your ears up, people. There's been a two-tier system for a long time. I pay twice as much as my brother for my internet, and it's twice as fast. It's a two-tier system, always has been.
Well, not quite.
That's in a different sense.
Yeah, they're charging you different, but that's not the same as creating fast lanes and censoring content.
You're buying something different.
Yeah, ISPs can now censor content based on what they like or don't like. They have a fast lane where they'll deliver other large sites with direct connections faster than they would deliver a smaller site or a startup. So it's very different. And they may have two-tier pricing, but they haven't had a two-tier internet. And these companies all got tax breaks to develop their companies and use those lines that the government created. They only own the last mile, and they were supposed to beef up the infrastructure. They decided instead of beefing up the infrastructure, they would find a loophole in the law, and that's what they've done.
What's up, Bill? How's it going, man?
And I do wonder what's going to happen when ICANN relinquishes administrative control. I mean, who will take
so we don't should the U.S. adopt the policy? Sorry, policy. I can't use that word anymore. Wow, we're touchy with words around here, Christina. Gotta watch how you're wording things. Anyways, okay. So, Bill, what do you think it should be in the States? Answer your own question, dude.
Should what be in the States?
The right to be forgotten.
Oh, and these companies, you know, with all the damage that things like Ripoff Report do,
yeah,
and Google keeps indexing them knowing. Now that's a case where Google is at fault, I think, because they index them and give them a lot of in the algorithm weight, and they know there's no verification system on that. And I've seen people lose $1 million contracts based on somebody didn't like them and posted something completely non-true on Ripoff Report. So,
but Christine,
it's a questionable area. What's that?
Christine, isn't Google simply returning results of what can be found on the internet for that search query?
No, because Google penalizes sites and Google removes sites and Google devalues sites, and they know Ripoff Report is 90% junk.
I don't really want to see Google empowered that much more, thank you.
I disagree on Ripoff Report, but you know it's opened up a whole new industry on you know, for people with reputation management. So, you know.
I mean, I've had a. I mean, I've had a problem here, and now this is.
There's no verification system on that, and I've seen careers that people lose $1 million contracts based on somebody didn't like them and posted.
Somebody's playing the show.
Dude, are we in the Matrix? That's a DJ. That's a DJ.
We're in a fucking Matrix.
Go across the street.
We're good, Tim. We're good now, Tim.
Cats and dogs living together.
The agents are here. The agents are here. It's a deja vu. I'm telling you.
I'm getting a flashback. Hold on.
I think it was Tim that had this talking stick there a second ago. Tim, you know? Maybe not? I don't know.
Inside joke.
What?
Okay, Bill, come on, man. Answer your own question.
Bill
Slosky, man. So do you think it's something they should have in the States or not, man?
Okay, I've worked for, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay, I worked for court system, highest level felony trial court in a state for 14, 15 years. And I was doing things like creating databases for carrying concealed deadly weapons and for fictitious names for businesses and so on. And towards the end of working at the court, we were building unified case management system for courts statewide, where we were going to start putting a lot more information on the web. And we had to face a lot of these questions. There's a lot of information that's publicly available because the only place you can get it is at the courthouse. So you have to take a day off from work, drive to the courthouse, climb into a little room in the basement, start digging through boxes to find information. And we had to start sifting through what we were putting in our electronic databases, because we'd have stuff like social security numbers attached to criminal cases or to judgments. But sometimes you need that stuff. When you have William Johnson as a criminal defendant, and there are 54 of them, it's hard telling which one's which. So we were thinking about, how is this going to be found on the web? How are people going to search for these people? How much confusion is it going to cause? How much of it should still be public? How much should be findable? How long should it be findable? You do go to a site like Ripoff Report, and you see people write stories about having legal judgments saying that it's okay to remove that information, and that gets presented to Ripoff Report, and they keep the stuff.
Yeah, they do.
No, that doesn't apply to us.
Yeah.
You know, when...
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Finish up, Bill.
Okay, so when you read the stuff about Europe and about people saying, hey, that happened to me 10 years ago, that's a long time ago, every reference to it on the web should just be removed, including on Google. And that's the thrust of the stories that you read. And you don't know that it's certain specialized limited data that's protected, like United States health laws protect certain type of data. Here, and say, okay, so does that apply to everybody who's got a reputation management problem? Should they be able to just tell Google, hey, I don't like those links, take them off? And that's what the stories have been reading like.
Moreover, that's what the immediate dive into extra cases are playing on. It's opened a chink. It doesn't matter how tight that one was. It has opened a line for other people to sue and try and broaden that chink into a wide open channel. And
yeah, we already have
libel need to be done.
We already have libel laws. It's so simple in the UK to have something removed because the onus is on the publisher. It's really simple, and it's very simple to have stuff removed, in google.co.uk because
the same in AU.
Yeah, it's really simple because we have
things like Ripoff Report don't respond to libel law judgments from courts.
Yeah. Look, even sometimes Google doesn't. Because, I've had a case where, some guy wrote a load of crap on a blogspot, and this was blogspot.nl. Eventually went to court, got the libel order, then went to Google. Google removed the blogspot.nl, but then the same content then reverted to the next provider, which was blogspot.be, I think, Belgium, because it's right next door. So the same page, they actually didn't take down. So this guy went to Belgium, got another libel thing, and then it reverts to .com, and he still can't remove the .com because they go, well, you've got to come to America now. It's like, come on, you've had two countries said this is libel, just take the fucking thing down.
I know Bill, and
I was going to say one.
We're trying to turn the ship back around.
On a Ripoff Report, a lot of times there's no one to sue for libel because it's an anonymous posting, and Ripoff Report isn't subject to libel in the States because of the way that they judge the content. It's sort of like a free speech thing. So a lot of times for someone in the States, when that's posted, there is no way to get it removed because Ripoff Report won't remove it. Let's say they hear a case, they charge $8,000 to $10,000 to hear the case, and in 99% of the time, I've never seen them remove it. They just say they heard the case. So,
all right, Bill B, you had a couple of questions there as far as getting our ship turned back around to what is and isn't SEO today.
We're talking
at this
over.
point, we're just yammering, but I know Bill Bean had a question or two here, so I'm going to let Bill take it. So, go ahead, dude. You got the talking stick.
So what's the deal with how come nobody ever talks about the death of SEM or what is the new SEM? Do you guys find people use search engine marketing to mean the same thing as search engine optimization?
That's a great question, and it all comes down to the same thing. It's the same reason that people keep trying to broaden the definition of SEO. SEO is what people know and search for. You know, we've really done a successful job of teaching people about SEO, so everyone looks for that. No, nobody would know what the hell to you know, is SEM dead? Well, it depends. What is it? Is that like S&M?
Yeah, it's just basically they're just two separate channels of the same web promotion, web marketing realm, you know.
SEM is dead when people have no money. That's when it'll die.
It won't be long then.
What, are we going to be on the barter system soon here, Doc?
Yeah.
So the argument's about whether or not SEO covers all the things that we think it does. Al.
Well, for instance, you know, does SEO include things like conversion rate optimization and reputation management?
Well, yes, like a Venn diagram, but it doesn't encompass them.
Well, I don't think any of them
encompass. The SEO actually knew how to do HTML and web graphics and the fucking skills that are required to do the job. That's what bothers me. People claim these titles and they don't have the fucking skills.
How are you?
And I think even, Doc, to a degree, with the way you just put it, a lot of times, you know, these days I'll find myself pulling in data from Webmaster Tools as far as query data, click-through data, and shit like that, and then I'll make some segmented reports depending on if it's localized or whatever. But I'll notice, you know, that the actual SERP click-through rates can be fixed and things like that, low-hanging fruit. So I guess there is an element to me even at that level of CRO that I would, but you know, for me, I'm converting from a SERP as opposed to a final conversion. Like obviously, I'll do that with the client. So I think one is kind of part of it, and one is
next week.
No, I think actually Ammon's comment about it being a Venn diagram is pretty.
Not at 9:30.
We'll just listen in.
So they overlap, you know. So there is a Venn aspect to it, but you know, I don't think any of them. That there is no term that, in my opinion, really encompasses all of what many of us do for optimizing the performance of a client's website and business.
Well, and again, I think to a degree we discussed today that also depends on the situation. Big corporate clients, Terry and I are just doing certain elements, audits or whatever. But with a smaller client, damn right, you're probably in everywhere. You know, I'm all over the analytics, setting up e-commerce tracking. You know what I mean? I'm all over the place wearing different hats. But I don't. When I'm setting up the e-commerce tracking and looking at conversion reports, I'm not sitting there going, I'm an SEO right now. No, it's a smaller client, so I got to do something else. And so right now I'm this.
Well, you know, and when I do a site audit for a client, I usually cover almost all of those aspects in a site audit, because they need to be made aware. Okay, here's an issue. I found these negative Yelp reviews. I found this technical error on your site structure. I found these overstuffed pages. I found your copy is being, you know, run on 7 other sites. That sort of thing. This isn't all SEO, but as an audit, I encompass it.
I found 8 fake Twitter profiles and 4 Facebook groups claiming your brand.
There you go.
I really liked what AJ Con said yesterday. You know, he calls it SEO because that's what the clients come for. You know, the client says, I need SEO, and he says, okay, right, well, we're going to start with this, and then we're going to do that, and, you know, there's a lot of things, and they're not really SEO, but that's what the client has come for, and I fully appreciate that. The difference is that I always make sure that the client understands, yeah, you've come for SEO, Here's what we're going to do and why it's important to the SEO, but these bits aren't SEO. Let me explain them. This is content marketing. This is conversion optimization. I let them know that there are other terms because educating the client is part of our job, and it's an important part of our job. The client should know these other terms.
When you talk to a mechanic, he doesn't say that the oil change is different. You know, it's all mechanic work. The guy who changes the oil, he's just a little bit further down the chain than the mechanic who's, you know, tearing engines apart. See it in a lot of other trades. You know, as a chef, I also learned pastry, but I wasn't a pastry chef because the pastry chef learns much more. Well, it's a lot. The skills are much more home.
No, it's or a carpenter that knows how to do some plumbing. That doesn't mean that now plumbing is part of carpentry. You know, like that's not going to happen, is it?
I don't think that's the same, David. Like content marketing and usability, I see as all part of under the same umbrella, like Terry was just saying. A plumber who does, carpentry is not under the same umbrella.
When you I'm the same, Eamon. Actually, Eamon, I used to also do offline marketing, meaning TV commercials for clients, newspaper campaigns, magazines, stuff like that. I had the same thing. You know what I mean? Before the internet, I was just more of a general marketer. So, yeah.
Exactly. It gave us the idea that not all of these things are SEO because we dealt with most of these terms before, and SEO was just repeating things that we knew in a different format. And I think that where all the language confusion comes is from people who haven't done marketing before, who are discovering all these marketing terms through SEO and therefore saying this must be part of SEO because that's where they've covered it from. And
well, the bottom line, when somebody tells a guy that I get 4 times as much traffic as you do, and I'm making twice as much money, you ought to get some SEO. That's what he's going to look for. That's what he's going to search for.
I think Bill was trying to jump something there.
One thing I'd love is, Terry's example about the plumber. Can I quickly go back to that before I jump out? I think that's absolutely right. Somebody goes to a plumber, I've got damp coming through my wall. Now, it turns out that, he's going to need a bricklayer, he's going to need a plasterer, he's going to need a lot of other things. He went to the plumber because it was a problem with damp.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly the same kind of thing. They're coming to us because they think that they need more traffic, and what they've heard on all these thousands of articles is you need SEO if you want more traffic. If you want to succeed online, you need SEO. And
I know it works the other way around. That you know what I mean? People come to someone for web design, and now this guy says, well, we do a little SEO, and it's totally, he's uninformed, still doing stuff from 5 years ago and things like that. So yeah, that happens in the inverse, that there's people doing SEO that are primarily something else otherwise, but they slapped in there because they don't do it.
What about the plumber that comes to the house? The pipes are in the wall, so he's got to cut a hole in the wall, and he's got to fix the pipe. And when he's done, does he walk away and leave the hole in the wall? No, he fixes it. But he doesn't call himself a drywaller.
It must not be a union job.
Can I say something?
No.
I would like to say that the level of detail that you go into with a client, and who was that? That's the guy on the left here with the black shirt. Anyhow, the level of detail and information you give a client or a contact with a corporation is directly related to their interests. Some don't want to know. Some just get it done. Some do want to know details and they want it, but I think always it's important to try to explain why you're doing something and what's in it for them. That's just good customer service. Sorry.
No, and also I would like to say that content marketing and things like conversion and usability, before people came along and co-opted those words, that was part of what we looked at. So they're not separate. The content marketing, we've always done content. Now there's people that specialize in it a little more. But to me, it's like
we used to it used to be content strategy and content development programs. So that's how we used to sell them, right?
It's not a plumber carpenter example. It's like the chef. Like the chef learns how to do pastry, how to do roast, how to do baking, all those things. and then maybe specializes in an area and might bring somebody in to be the pastry chef in the case when it's beyond their skill level. But these were all part of the original things that I did since I started 7 years ago. So now that people say I'm a content marketer, I'm a conversion specialist, all those things are people took out to market themselves as a specialized skill set of what originally was everything that we did.
Well, they got to sell a service, so they box it up.
Right, but I'm just saying it's not the same as plumber and carpenter.
I think the analogy to kind of try to go somewhere with the plumber carpenter thing, that when I look at it and what we do with clients, frequently we work best with the client who needs a little help with everything. That's kind of our best spot. So we're like a carpenter and a plumber and an interior designer and an architect and a home inspector and a realtor and an entertainment director and sometimes a family therapist for what goes on in the house. I mean, that's
been there, done that.
I guess that's why I like the chef example better.
A handyman rather than a plumber or a carpenter. You're a handyman. You can do a bunch of everything. And
Terry,
that's what
the
we
people
were in the
is
beginning.
a generalist, but a service provider also needs to know their limitations,
Right.
and when to bring in a real expert.
To
Well,
me,
that's
that's
what
what
the
actually
industry-
separates professionals from amateurs. A professional knows what he can do and what he can't and goes to the right people to
Correct.
get that work that they can't do themselves done properly.
Yeah, we have like a general contractor, so it's important to me that within our ranks we know what SEO is, because I'm going to go and hire an SEO expert at some point, and I know what I mean by that, to help get something done for a client, and I want to know enough of it so that I can have an intelligent conversation with a David Harry or Terry Van Horn or Bill Slosky. So what you were saying there, Marge, is exactly right. Now, I mean, probably 30 or 40% of the time we can get done what the client needs done. But then we also take a big emphasis on educating the client so that they could have a conversation with one of you when they know that, okay, now's the time you want to specialize. Here's the questions to go and ask that expert. Then they'll keep us around too because they want a third opinion once they're talking to a specialist to know they're being treated right.
Yeah,
we usually bring in the specialist, so.
Yeah, that's what Dave and I do. Actually, when
The
I
Rolodex, Terry. The Rolodex, man. You gotta have a thick one.
that's what I'm selling is partially my Rolodex
Yeah.
and the people that Dave and I know. Like after 20 years in this business, name almost anything, and I can go almost to one of the top people in that expertise and arrange a deal for you. That is an important part of what I bring to the table. That's one of my unique. What do you call them, Dave?
And I don't even think, Terry, it's as much. Sure you can arrange a good deal, but I think when you bring someone in like that too, they all just like if someone brought us in, you tend to work a little harder. You know what I mean? Because that friend of yours in the industry brought you in. You tend to take it that a little extra seriously. So I think that's another benefit of doing things that way.
But you also know that guy's looking over your shoulder, and you may not get any more work from him if you don't give it that little bit extra, right?
And another thing to understand too when you're dealing with clients is the chemistry of your contacts with the client that you want to refer to that, talent. Because sometimes people aren't going to get along, so you have to choose carefully. Well, this one's got this style, probably do better with this. So it's good to have a variance of, resources with talent in specific areas, I've found.
Yeah, but watch how you make those decisions. Dave can tell you about what happened with one of our clients. They expected me to come in and be swearing every other word and, being my usual self. And I come in, didn't swear once, was very professional, and I actually said that he was certain.
I don't
Yeah, Marge, at the end, we had this hour and a half meeting, and I guess they'd come across us in something, podcast or whatever. I think it was before we did Hangouts, I'm sure. But
yeah, it was a podcast.
Yeah, and so, they came along, and, the head of the SEO department and the one guy would be working with us or whatever, four of us were in a call. And we did this whole hour-long call, and then at the end, the marketing guy, the head of the SEO department says, well, I'm rather disappointed. Me and Terry are like, what the fuck? He goes, Terry, you didn't swear once, man.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Like, I listen to your show
don't tell
every week.
people
It's
how
like,
somebody's
you
going
curse
to be.
once. There you go. People
Right
pay
now,
us just to hear Terry go off. I think, you know, that's it.
right now I have that Jack Nicholson line, "You can't handle the truth," going through my head because some of my clients can't handle the truth, so, I'll refer them to somebody who's going to give them the tough love by default, but,
Bill in the
My specialty.
in the chat there, Mr. Slawski. That's something that I think really Terry drummed it through my head when we started working together 5 years ago was establish what the client's doing, what's their goals, you know what I mean? What is it?
Right.
What is the point of the exercise, Bill? You know what I mean?
Then expectations.
Well, and
that actually also helps you figure out if they can pay you. That's a lot of the reason that I get it.
When I've asked clients what their overall business goals are for their website development, they've sometimes, well, why do you want to know? Because it will help me help you. That's the bottom line. You need to have an understanding about what their business goals are, what they hope to achieve, blah blah blah. I mean, that's just common sense, isn't it, or isn't it?
Not at all. I was dealing with a corporation, not a big one, a very small one, so probably a medium-sized business recently, and I started talking about what their USP and stuff like that was. I mean, what's your they didn't have a clue. I started talking about their competitors. It was a software business, remember, Terry? And I asked, have you signed up for all your competitors to check out what they have compared to no? So, man, they don't even have a clue. They had no idea what the unique selling proposition even was.
And I've sent some people away.
So I had to take them back and start there and work forward.
I've sent some people away or in another direction when their business idea doesn't look like it's going to pan out. It's just like, what do you really want to do? Have you looked at the competition? No. How do you do that? So it's just like business 101. Never mind. I work with a smaller client base, medium business mostly. So what can I say?
The fuck did I miss in the chat here? All I see is Christine saying, I have cats but no porn. What is it you people are doing over here?
We read 2 comments up or 3
comments.
comments.
Oh, okay. Go with cat porn. Okay.
Yeah, you need to scroll.
How did we go
I
here?
find that a lot of the times, our questions, even with prospects, talking about that start with, hey, we heard you're an SEO company, we should talk to you, end up into basic business coaching sessions.
Absolutely.
That just reveal that you don't know who you're selling, or like you were saying, Dave, what's your unique proposition, who's your audience, who's your client, how do you know when things are going right at the business, what's a lead worth, what's a customer worth, any of those
questions. What makes you different from the competition,
Yeah, well, like Mark says, it bleeds right into expectations. Look, if you don't know that, then sooner or later you're going to be unhappy with us because we're going to feel like something was really successful, and you're going to say those aren't worth anything.
Or even e-commerce situations. What products have your highest markup? Which are your most popular products? Which of your products are seasonal, et cetera, et cetera. These are all things planned for with any kind of SEO program. How do you do it without that? Really? Are you just throwing interior links and throwing shit around and no, makes no sense. Like Terry always says, not going to be with this client in 6 months if we're not making the money because they're going out of business and they can't afford you or whatever. So you've got to be picking and choosing your battles, which query spaces you want to be chasing and everything else based upon that information of what's making them money and which is the easiest ones to get at term-wise now, So.
We start every client with an audit because nowadays you don't know what services they had prior or what they were doing prior. So we have to get a good assessment. At that time, it also allows us to get a good assessment of the client, their needs, their goals. So it helps us start off on a much better foot.
Just for anyone else watching this over the next week, next Friday we're actually doing a session on Friday about client relations and stuff, Doc, right? I believe we're finally getting to that. So that'll be we're going to be talking everything from sales to proposals to managing expectations. Yeah, it's another pickle.
Yes, we talked about that in the dojo.
Yeah, that's what we do.
I had a memorable experience with a client who, I started to coach her a little bit about how to do on-site SEO, and then she went off that night and she did some research and came back the next day and said, I learned all about SEO last night and I hired somebody to help me. I was floored. You know, she could barely load an image on the web, and suddenly she's an SEO expert. You know, so people do stupid stuff. You can't save them from themselves.
No.
Oh no! I told you the other day the story about the client I'm doing a recon for. Christine, you'll like this one, since you do a lot of recons like me. So
Yeah.
I'm working on this recon, Christine, and the client says to me, he says, "Is it okay if we do some link building while you're working on that?" I said, "Well, I don't know. It depends. What do you consider to be link building?" So then he went on a beautiful list: article marketing, directory submissions. We got an account at My Blogcast, he says. So I sent him my article about My Blogcast. I'm like, dude, no, don't do any of that, okay, dude? It's like, but people complicated, you know. And even after they get spanked, he didn't go out, I guess, and read and figure out what's going on.
Yeah, guys like that, you say, yeah, you can put me on retainer. You're going to need my services in the future.
We have a good one, David. We had one where they were kicked from Google for 16 months in the loan space. A manual penalty, most likely Penguin 1.0 as well, and then a hidden penalty they didn't know about, or algo shift. So we got them back. They didn't get their homepage back, so we recovered the homepage. And the first thing the guy tells us is he doesn't care about ranking for his brand name because he doesn't. And so we're like, well, okay, well, that'll show itself, right? 2.5 months later, there's supposedly no ROI on the site, and the guy that didn't really want us there to begin with had taken off the conversion tag. So they actually ended the contract because there was no site ROI on branded terms 2.5 months after recovery, so it shouldn't have been anyways. But it turns out this month there's 200 conversions for just branded terms when we've got them to put it back on. But sometimes the person that works with the owner or the CEO is the one that's least competent in their job, and
but he's got the owner there, so.
Or they talk to a pal. Well, so and so said, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, my cousin's uncle for a dog told me.
Yeah, but I mean, we recovered them from all that, and they didn't see any value in getting their homepage back, no matter how much we tried to explain that was a necessary part of recovery.
Oh well, you can lead a horse to water, right?
Exactly, exactly. They also expected to be in the top 10 for loan terms, 2.5 months.
Vanity terms are my favorite. The vanity terms always killed us, man. Hey, Terry, somebody gets this term and it's been pushed down the chain, and you're looking at it going, was it a Ford Explorer or something? What are the examples, Terry? Was it
Ford Taurus?
Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, they wanted this, and they're in the used car space. It's a very well-known brand. You know what I mean? You'd know if we told you what, you'd know. But they sell used cars, and they have website newspapers, if you're getting the gist here. And yeah, so they sell used cars, and they wanted to rank for Ford Taurus, and we were like, but you look at the SERP, it's actually Ford, and it's Ford's actual Taurus page. And the next result was a second domain that Ford owned for used cars, wasn't it, Terry? Yeah. It was like, you're not pushing Ford out of the top fucking two. No matter what you do, it's a Ford Taurus.
No, Dave. More links. That was the answer. Yeah. More links. They had a million. They had a million links, and the guy thought adding more links would make that happen.
Just one link away.
Some guest blogging is going to fix them right up.
Well, the number result, which was a separate domain, which was like used for or something, but it was owned by GM or whoever. Ford, sorry. But even that one, it had maybe under 1,000 links, Terry? When we looked at that page, it was like 800 and something links. It didn't matter. It's fucking Ford. They don't need the links, and you're not pushing them out by throwing more links.
Well, when we were looking at SUVs, that was even more so.
That was another company, but yeah, SUV. You know, good luck with that. I love vanity terms. Somebody at the sea level wants this. Let's go do it. Yeah, good luck with that.
Heavy sigh.
Heavy sigh. Don't do that. It's insulting, right, Christine?
What? I can't sigh?
If you're out there, Deb, I love you. Thank you.
I read too many comic books as a kid. I always see bubbles over my head, and I say things out loud I shouldn't. Sorry.
Well, David here has been quiet the whole time. What's happening, David? Did you want to throw anything at the gang, or what? Or are you just lurking there, buddy?
Here's a water balloon.
David Kyle? Hey, what up? Talk.
He's muted, man. He's muted. We can't hear him.
Oh, no.
Oh, there he is. He's back.
Hey guys, sorry. Yeah, I'm a PPC guy, friend of Steve's, and yeah, I just wanted to come in and listen and hear what was going on.
Just talking shit on a Friday. It's what we do, brother. You do PPC. Well, I don't care. I'm an SEO. I can do your job for you. All right?
No, he's really good, dude. He's really good at YouTube PPC and PPC.
I can do anything better than
everybody, you know our network. Everybody I know knows something. So if he's here hanging out, he really knows his stuff.
That's it, man.
You know what I'm saying? So yeah.
Got to keep a tight circle of it.
Yeah, you got to be really good at something. You know, to keep that. That's just how we roll, isn't it? So.
God, there's a song in there somewhere.
That's it. We'll start doing songs on Friday.
Well, you know, you used to play guitar for us, David.
I know. Once upon a time. The summer's coming. I'll be back.
Focus, Marge. Focus.
Oh, well, I'm about to bail. I have client stuff I need to get done, so it's been real, guys. Thank you very much, David, for having this, and Terry. And I'll talk.
Always a pleasure, darling.
Bye bye.
Take care, Marge.
I'm now.
We'll chop it up and throw it on the site for everybody.
So, Steve, if I understand things correctly, you're in a bit of a corporate environment, yes?
Me? Yeah, big time.
Okay.
I work on Fortune 5, Fortune 50.
Yeah, can't you tell by behind him?
Well, what I'm curious, so is your title within the organization something to do with SEO, and do they lump everything into that job description or all your reports?
Well, I got really fortunate to get. I worked at a technology public relations firm that worked with clients like Texas Instruments and stuff for like 8 years. So I was like SEO for PR firm and corporate people from that perspective for a lot of B2B stuff. And then I left and got hired at Rockfish. And what they did is they made me what's called an SME, a subject matter expert. So I don't really have any P&L per se in terms of employee responsibility, but intellectual or thought leadership, I'm kind of, I guess, the oracle or the person who wrote the dictionary or the person who sends out the updates or the person who solves the impossible problems.
So do you have to help that organization with the definition of your subject?
I had to write my title, and I've also written the title that I'm going to get after this title. Like right now, I'm Senior Search Scientist, and I wrote a job description for Chief Search Scientist, which is a C-level executive that looks at all different avenues within a business and how they're impacted by search. When you have such a structure to where search is being implemented across more than 50 clients, and each one of those is no less than $1 million engagement.
So they don't ask you about content marketing?
Content marketing would be content marketing to me would be something that is just a negative buzzword maybe. In I guess our circles, content marketing is a negative buzzword because it's just spamming. On the other hand, there are people that do content audits. In other words, you have 27 videos on your YouTube channel. You have 3 Twitter accounts, 4 Facebook pages, 2 Facebook groups, 18 websites, 27 domain names, and this is your content. This is your social and digital ecosystem footprint. Does that make sense? You have to look at it as a big digital ecosystem because social does impact search, but SEO is not search. But we also have the paid people who are going to do media, retargeting. They're going to do a partnership with the Food Network for a food product, or they're going to do a tag along with Children's Miracle Network on their thing, and they're going to help donate money, and they have a big corporate sponsorship of that type of thing. So I think it's one of those things. Later, Slavsky. Thanks, dude. But I mean, so from that perspective, my job title, Senior Search Scientist, all I do is figure stuff out. I'm the guy that has to stay up late at night and, all right, now that Google's changed, we have to take one POV and spin it out 10 different times for 10 different clients because they each have different situations, but this Google change will impact how they do business or how they need to make changes in the way they're doing some things. Like they used to run a heavy blogger network, and then all of a sudden now they need to slow down on their blog postings. Make sense?
So you answer the questions that nobody else can, really.
Like, where's the liquor cabinet?
Steve's perpetually drunk.
You are good at search.
I'm with you, man. It's fucking Friday.
It's hard to see where it stops and begins.
Honestly, this is work right here. This is work right now. Talking to these people, getting this recording up, talking with Dave, getting my presence out there in the SEO industry, figuring stuff out. You know, earlier when this thing started, we had some collaboration where we started sharing a bunch of screenshots and we found the 0 result thing in Google. Well, at some point, the secret sauce really doesn't matter anymore because it's how you use the secret sauce and which secret sauce you're going to pull out of the fridge. You know, is it going to be Tabasco? Is it going to be honey? Is it going to be salt? Is it going to be sugar? What do we need to do for this particular client? What is? And Dave said it earlier in you know, the low-hanging fruit for this client that's going to provide the most impact with the least expense. So you can say, well, really, we need to kind of impact your CMS, which is going to be your navigation, which is going to be this big, huge expense, which you need to do now, not 5 years from now, and you might as well get it out of the way because we're tackling your SEO and how you deal with clients from the foundation. Your customer funnel does this, so we need to have this segment of the page. You have your customer funnel coming in here, but we have 5 different domain names, so how do we get these 5 different domain names qualified on one website to where that funnel goes into one customer funnel, so 50 people handling 10 different problems 5 different ways doesn't work. Make sense?
Oh, for sure, man. And again, you know, like going back to that whole thing is, yeah, you know, I mean, we always look in the low-hanging fruit because you're trying to improve as much. You want as much bang for cost initially as possible. You know what I mean? Well, get that you know, let's pick up the revenues, get things moving, and slowly going somewhere. But at the end of the day, yeah, you know, we always, even when we do we'll have short-term recommendations and long-term. You know what I mean? And stuff like, you know, your CMS has got to go at some point. You know, we tend to put those in the long-term list, even though we'd like them to happen tomorrow. We know these corporate structures will be next year's budget. You know what I mean? If budget comes around in July, this corporation, then they'll discuss it, and you might get something going on by Christmas.
You know, is it B2C and seasonal? Is it B2B and we have a really, really long sales cycle? So you have to deal with more returning visitors as well as new visitors and how you focus the content of your website. Would that be called content marketing? Mr. Bean.
Huh.
Right? Would it?
Could be. You're content marketing to an internal audience, right?
Well, but if I'm content marketing in terms of my content has 2 focus in B2B. I want new people because I want to build my pipeline for sales. And I've got a pipeline already for sales, so I want to provide them with supplementary information, user manuals, documents, technical specifications, support on any questions they get, so prospective customers see the support path and the way that we handle our clients, so therefore they're like, it looks like they do all their stuff right on their website, it looks like I can get support, so I'll purchase from them. So therefore you've already got them on the website, so you've got 20% of their purchase decision already made at that time. Why not try and close them the rest of the way? Even though it's for a long sales cycle, go for the immediate close with B2B, just like you would with B2C, instead of saying, oh, it's just an encyclopedia. Make sense? Or a brochure.
Mm-hmm.
It's just different ways to do stuff.
And that's the issue with the cookie cutter SEO approach. That's why I fucking hate it so much, because I've never done the same thing twice for any client. You know what I mean? Literally. You know, you're always coming in and approaching things differently, and from markets to budgets to fucking query spaces and fucking C-level people with fucking vanity terms and all the way down the line. You know, there is no cookie cutter. You approach everything from, you know, you wipe your brain clean when you start with a new client, and just start asking those questions, building that profile, and then start striking out. You know?
That's a thing. A lot of answers you see other places, not to mention anywhere in particular. The Moz, they kind of have these answers that there is no context to the question, so the answers are totally.
Yes! Oh my God, Terry. Thank you.
I need to be like one of those radio shows that has the big audience pushing a button in there, don't you?
We need to get some effects, Dave.
Dude, I mean, we need to tweet that. We need to find a quote and a tweet from that, because that is seriously what it is people don't realize the context of what they're looking at.
Well, that's it, and they just read some fucking bullshit, and they have no... You know, it's even like every time we bring up even surveys and the regulators, we're always looking at, you know, oh, this was based on how many, you know, it's based upon 300 marketers that we talked to. It's like, oh, that's a great fucking
300
insight there, pal.
Yeah. And yet we're supposed to run with that and treat it like it's gold. Yeah, okay.
You know, or some article about e-commerce, SEO, this and that, but again, it's based upon one or two sites in two different, you know, in one or two query spaces. You need that context if you're gonna write, but that's not why people write. Right? People in this industry write to fucking be heroes and get lots of little buttons pushed and people sharing. Oh, I got 500 tweets in my last article. You know, it's like, fuck. That's why they do it, as opposed to.
God forbid, Dave. Our mistake was that we expected people to think. They did not want to think for themselves, even though they saw that through us the benefit to learning how to think on your own. A lot of people just can't be bothered.
Push a button, SEO, buddy. Where's the big red button? Where's the big?
Or maybe once again, that's their only answer, so that's what they're gonna do, right?
Oh, he's got his button. There you go. Steve's got his button.
Excellent. Right. Somebody push the button. Somebody push the button.
Hold on. Okay, coming. There we go. I'm guessing that came from a conference. I don't know.
No, you remember the first time they had stock?
First IPO?
Yeah.
Is that what they sent you with the prospectus?
No, that was with my purchase notes and board stuff. I'm old school, dude. I was there a long time ago. I was in a chat room with Jerry on IRC a long time ago. So, no, I was like one of those. Yeah. So no, I was just remembering that it rocks up to 400, and you're like, see ya. So yeah, no. I was a volunteer editor for Yahoo, like before DMOZ. I was doing, before they started doing the $99 thing, I was a volunteer editor at Yahoo Directory.
Be nice if it was that easy again.
The thing was, and the reason why I've always gotten away with so much crap that I get away with is because I never really abused it. You know, I mean, I go in and list all my old clients exactly, perfectly within the specifications of the rules, and if you ever looked at DMOZ rules 8 through 13, I actually wrote, and on Yahoo it's 9 through 14, I actually wrote those rules on how to submit submissions, like 150 characters and all that kind of crap, because there was a reason for that in search. So we had to define how to do directory to do it, because realize directory, there was a lot of stuff. How do you submit? How do you verify? How do you do a lot of stuff? And at the time when you're a search geek doing criminal justice stuff on your criminal justice degree, then that's kind of what you do. You figure that stuff out. But the whole thing was, how do you do it?
Never needed that, Steve. I had a password for automatic submission.
Right, I know. But then someone also went through and approved stuff and all that kind of stuff. But yes, I had a password too. Right, and then
to the front of the line where people waited months, I was done in a day.
Well, yeah, you could do it. Normally, it would take 6 hours for it to get reloaded in the index, right? About that time, is that when you're talking about? Right before it went from Free
a
to
long time
99.
ago, I did searches on HTML Writers Guild and
Right.
found a password that Jerry Yang gave early webmasters for head of the line at Yahoo.
Oh, right on. It's Yahoo Express.
No, that was before.
No. Yahoo Express was $2.99. It was
when I did a submission, I included a password that mine got pushed to the front of the line.
so that was pre-login of the actual account where you had your submissions documented, and then you had a dashboard.
Yeah.
That wouldn't happen until
That
so
was
you were
when
like
you did it by email, right?
Yeah, and that was 2 months. That was 2 months before they started charging $99.
Oh no, I had it almost from day one that I was doing.
Right, but what I'm talking about is like that whole thing ended like 2 months before.
Oh, it ended shortly after I posted the information on my website.
So cool. No, I mean that's how long we've been around. That's the funny part, and people don't realize we've done this directory thing before. The whole thing didn't work.
That's first generation. If you weren't pre-Google, that's first generation SEO is pre-Google.
Well, first generation was Brian at the University of Washington throwing out web crawler and then being able to spam web crawler and get all 10 results in Yahoo. And that was fun. So, and then how to figure that out. So, but Matt wasn't NSA. Matt was DoD, by the way.
They said it when he was speaking. It was NSA. That's how they introduced him.
Really?
Yeah. Which I was surprised because you never introduce NSA.
No, and I didn't think he was NSA. He was DoD, but he's had to deal with the NSA request because of his DoD security clearance, more than likely.
They stated NSA, and it was online as well. That he helped with algorithms at the NSA or something of that nature. So
I would call bullshit, and then he's also not going to defend it and can't address it either.
Well, it was like I said. It was when they introduced him to speak at a conference. They introduced him that way. He was there. So. Did
he allude to it, mention it, or just go by it without mentioning anything?
I don't remember what his response was, but it was like someone from Google that introduced him.
Well, I always thought it was somebody from Google. Oh, anyway, interesting. So, and maybe are they still with Google?
I don't know.
that's what
I don't remember. I don't remember. But I just know that's how it was introduced, and that's because I'm from the DC area, so. And as you know, Steve, I was shocked to hear someone introduced as a former NSA.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't do that. You would say no. You would. Well, I mean, the other part is you and I are both government hackers, so we may not have other knowledge, but you just don't.
No, like if you work for the CIA, you work for the, it's the State Department, Foreign Services, State Department. You never say in DC you work for any of those agencies, so. I was very surprised. That's why it caught my ear.
Are you guys going to have to kill us now?
Well, there's so many things to talk about there, but we won't do that today.
Well, as long as you don't sigh at her, we're good.
What's that?
So as long as we don't sigh at you, we're good.
You might want to Google rendition.
We're just not going to talk about it. We're just not going to talk about it.
We'll put it on fucking camera and film, but we won't talk about it. Okay, that makes sense.
Well, and Steve, you remember my phone download situation, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but I mean, we both have the whole. Well, honestly, I figured out. Honestly, if we really want to make some noise, right now, based on the FCC ruling, FCC Chairman Wheeler to go after T-Mobile for your apps being on your phone that you can't delete.
There's apps on the phone you can't delete?
Yeah, if you have carriers for mobile based with the new FCC ruling as of yesterday, because I watched the whole video. That whole thing about having an app on your phone that was pre-sold by the mobile carrier that you can't remove because it's their agreement with so-and-so. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you can't delete the app because they have an agreement that it's pre-installed, and I don't really want Monopoly on my phone, or Slacker, or Amazon, and I want to be able to delete them. With the new FCC ruling, they're in violation of that new ruling.
Yeah, that's good you brought that up, man, because I just ran into that with the new Android update with AT&T, and
right.
they put like 10 apps on there that you could not delete. And when I called them about it, because I'm like, come on, that can't be legal. I'm paying you guys for the service. I should be able to control what's on my phone. And they played ignorant. Although I couldn't delete them, I was able to go into the app manager and disable them. And that basically, it wasn't deleted, but they don't appear on the screen anymore, and they don't have access to all the stuff they did have access to. So that was a quick fix that I found.
Yeah, I did.
Hope they do.
I just did that with there because
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I wouldn't bet the farm on that, David.
Well, I mean, at this point, what he's talking about, because they